visual field, it's the left hemisphere that's processing it. If you've got a pencil in the left visual field, it's the right hemisphere that's processing it. Yep. And communication between the two being served by the corpus callosum. And as I said, when that's cut, no significant behavioral or mental effects in these patients could be observed. There was one patient who was very fond of making model cars, right? Very fine-grained work, this, right? If you're going to make that kind of race car out of old beer tins, you need good coordination, right? You need both hands working together in a very fine way. People can play tennis just fine after this. Yeah, tennis, you need pretty good whole body coordination, left and right working as a unity. People are just fine in these ways. So these patients, you could put that by saying they're fully functionally integrated. They're just as organized as anybody else. They are not dysfunctional in everyday life. If you look at the video I linked to, it starts out really touchingly with one patient saying, well, if I feel just the same as before. It feels no different to me. I do my life just as before. It's just like, now I know I got a backup brain, but it doesn't really make any difference to my experience in everyday life. That's what he says. The subtle, interesting things about these patients came up when experimenters started using tachistoscopic presentations. Can you say can I say tachistoscopic? Tachistoscopic meaning very brief presentations, just a few hundred milliseconds. The thing is, if you think back to this scenario with the bit in the middle being cut, well, usually it doesn't matter because if you think of it, even as you sit here now in a pretty static situation, your head and eyes move the whole time. What was in your left visual field just a moment ago is now in your right visual field. That's really easy. Look, you can try this, right? It happens really quick, really fast. So you can make sure, in effect, that each hemisphere is getting complete information about the scene just by moving your head, right? Or just by moving your eyes, in fact. Yeah, happens really fast. So you get, as it were, external communication. There's always external ways of making sure that the two hemispheres are both getting full information. But when you've got a tachistoscopic presentation, when something is flashed up just very briefly, just for a few hundred milliseconds, that's too fast for you to do that thing of moving your head or moving your eye. You're only getting just a static moment of the display. It might be quite long enough for you to see what's in the display, but it's too fast for you to make sure that both hemispheres are getting all the information. So the kind of scenario was, in the left field, the patient's told, pick up a pencil. So in the left, you're being told, pick up a pencil. And the right, on the right of your visual field, you're getting the instruction, pick up the toothbrush among a tray of items there. So if that's what happens, you're told, pick up the pencil in the left field, and you've got no communication between left and right hemispheres. Well, what's going to happen? What's your information is your right hemisphere going to get? Sorry? Pick up the pencil, right? Yes? Yes, right. Yeah, so you don't have that rapid communication between the hemispheres, right? Okay, so the right hemisphere has now been isolated from the left hemisphere. You're making sure that they don't have the same information. They're not getting in this external way by you moving your head, and they can't get it by the internal communications because that's been cut. Yeah? So the right hemisphere is only getting what's in the left, not what was in the right. And the left hemisphere is only getting what was in the right, not what was in the left. Did I keep right? Can you keep me straight and right and left? You see what I mean? Okay. So if that happens, then the right hemisphere is getting look for the pencil. So it's in charge of your left hand. So your left hand is going to be looking for the pencil. Your left hemisphere is getting the instruction in the right. Look for the toothbrush. So it's in charge of your right hand. So your right hand is going to be looking for the toothbrush. Yep. Yep.
So with this person, when this is happening, would they have any other idea that the other half of their body is searching for different objects, or to them only one hand is searching for something?
Well, they can see what's happening, right? They can do this and say, wow, look at my hands, right? that raises some curious issues, right? Which I'll come on to in a second. I will say, one patient in that situation said, looking at what his hands is doing, said, "Is these tablets I'm taking for you've made me take? I'm kind of high." That seems to be a perfectly rational reaction. If you found your hands doing that, that is what you'd say. What was in those tablets you gave me? Yeah. But there are actually lots of interesting things happen on just that point. So, look, here's someone in this kind of situation there's a tray of objects there, and this is their instruction, what they are to look for. And that's being flashed up really fast. Yeah. So, he's got key on the left and ring on the right. So the left hemisphere is getting ring, the right hemisphere is getting key. And therefore what's happening? The left hand is picking up the key. Yeah. The right hand is picking up the ring. And if you ask him, what are you looking for? Well, which hemisphere does the language production? Right, so the left hemisphere got ring, so he says ring. I'm looking for the ring. And if you ask him, how come you picked up the key? He really has a problem because the speech production only knows about the ring instruction, doesn't know anything about the key instruction. So he has a problem as to what he's going to say to that question. That was your point. Yeah, yeah. But notice too, these two halves there make up, there's a kind of behavioral disorganization here, dissociation, right? Disorganization is a bit too strong because each component is individually perfectly well organized. It's just that they're coming apart in what they're doing. But also, he is getting a whole word there. There's a single word there, right? Keyring. So you might think if that's what you saw, you should be looking. If you or I were given that, you'd think keyring, right? But he's not getting keyring either. Yeah? So it's not just that his movements are disorganized, there's a dissociation in what he's representing. Philosopher Tim Bain, who's written quite a lot about this, says you've got behavioral and representational disunities. And it's a real hard question. What is he seeing when he's looking at that? What is his visual experience? What? Yeah, but there's only one person there. What is the visual experience of that person? I'll come back to this. Yeah. So look, here's another case of that again goes over the same kind of point. This is someone who, as you can see, is traditional in these experiments to remove the top of the patient's head so you can get a good look at what's going on. So you can see there what's happening in his brain, right, in the left and right. So he's being shown a snow scene on the left and a chicken's foot, a chicken's claw on the right. And then there's what is that, 8 pictures below. And what he's asked is, point to the picture in the row of 8 that goes with the scene that you're seeing. That's his task. Yep. So with his left hemisphere, he's getting the chicken claw. So his right hand is pointing to the chicken head. Yep. With his right hemisphere, he's getting the snow scene. So his left hand is pointing to the shovel. Right? Yeah. And now what the questioner asked earlier, what's he going to make of this? He says, someone says to him cruelly, why are you pointing to the shovel? You see why that gives him a problem? Because his left hemisphere has to do the talking. And his left hemisphere doesn't know anything about the snow scene. Yeah? You see what I mean? You see the problem? And here's what he said. When asked why the chicken, he said it goes with the chicken claw. When asked why the shovel, he responded, to clean up the chicken coop. Good thinking. And that's what people do, right? That's what we all do the whole time. We tell stories that make sense of our actions, right? It's one of the earliest things very young children learn to do with language is to say things like, well, I meant to do that, or I wanted that to happen. You see what I mean? You just tell stories that make sense of your behavior. So here he is with the head cut off and top of the head cut off and everything coloured in by dyes and saying, well, you need the shovel to clean up the chicken coop. So the concealed object is placed in the left hand and the patient is asked to guess what's in it. Well, the left hemisphere is not getting it. The language production hemisphere is not getting it. If the left hemisphere makes a wrong guess, the right hemisphere hears what this guy is saying. So he says, if he gets a pipe in his left hand and he's asked, well, what's that? And he says, it's a pencil. The right hemisphere, which knows there is a pipe, hears that and says, no. Right? But if the speaking hemisphere guesses correctly, the result is a smile. Yeah? Okay. So that's the basic phenomenon. Brain bisection. Yeah. As I say, the videos are wonderful. It occurred to me, it seems kind of slack for a lecturer just to play a class of video, so I didn't do it. But maybe I should. You should just see. You get a sense of it much better when you see people discussing the condition. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I have a question. So about the shovel thing.
Yeah.
Does that mean that person does not, his consciousness does not respond to what's showing on the left side of the screen? Does that mean?
His consciousness does not respond to what's showing in the left side of the screen. Well, what's showing in the left side of the screen is the snow scene. Yeah? And my guess would be that's why he picked up the shovel. So he's responding to it in his actions. Sorry?
What's the, so is that he can't, well, his brain doesn't just incorporate why he picked the shovel for the snow scene? I don't really get it.
Well, in his use of language, he's unable to say why he picked up the shovel. Yeah? Nonetheless, I mean, he's unable to give the correct answer as to why he picked up the shovel. Nonetheless, it may well be that he's conscious of the shovel. It's just that that aspect of him that's conscious is not able to say why he did that. Yeah, that's very on what is so strange about this case. Yeah, how can you be conscious